Hello and welcome to Japanese Craft Beer Reviews. From today we're going to take a look at three beers that are not Japanese but which are widely available in Japan because the brewery has a tie-up with Kirin, one of the four major Japanese beer brewers. They have a distribution tie-up with them, and that brewery is Brooklyn Brewery, and we're going to take a look at three beers from them. I have reviewed in the past Brooklyn Summer Ale, and I'm going to make a playlist, and you can find that in that playlist. So if you're interested in that, go take a look at the Summer Ale from Brooklyn. The ones we're going to review today and next time will be Brooklyn Lager and Brooklyn Defender IPA, and then Brooklyn Sorachi Ace Saison. We'll take a look at each of those three beers. Brooklyn Brewery started in 1987. Their first batch of beer, Brooklyn Lager, came out in 1988. It was started by a former AP foreign correspondent named Steve Hindy and his partner, and they got investors and got going. And so in 1998 they brought out their first batch of Brooklyn Lager, and it became quite popular very early on. They developed into a bigger brewery, and then acquired a brewer named Garrett Oliver, who was a quite accomplished home brewer, and he became brewmaster in 1996 and developed a number of their main beers for them. Garrett Oliver is also very well known as the editor of the Brewmaster's Table, a book about food pairing and cooking with beer. And he's also the editor of the Oxford Companion to Beer, which is kind of like a mini encyclopedia of beer. So he's very well respected in the craft beer community. He became brewmaster in 1996 at Brooklyn. And some other notable beers that they make, of course, are Black Chocolate Stout, wonderful stout, and Black Ops, which is a barrel-aged imperial stout, an absolutely wonderful beer. They came out with that in 2007. It's an annual. In 2014, Garrett Oliver was the first brewer ever to be awarded a James Beard Award, and that was for outstanding service in drinks, and so he's quite an accomplished guy, and he is still with Brooklyn. Brooklyn sold 24.5% to Kirin, and so they are the beneficiaries of Kirin's distribution muscle in Japan, and so you can find their beers quite easily now. And so let's take a look at three beers from Brooklyn Brewery. And actually Brooklyn, we think of Colorado, the Northwest, or San Diego as beer towns now, of course. At one point, Brooklyn, just the brewer of Brooklyn, was responsible for producing 10% of all the beer that was made in the United States. This was in the 1800s, of course, Walt Whitman time, I guess, or shortly thereafter. Quite a heritage to live up to, and I think Brooklyn Brewery does a good job of that. Okay. And now let's take a look at one more beer from Brooklyn Brewery, and it is this one. It's called Sorachi Ace. Kind of an unusual name. They have, of course, the playing card, Ace playing card here. Sorachi Ace is a farmhouse saison style beer at 7.2% and 34 IBUs. And Sorachi Ace is the name of a hop. And this hop has a kind of interesting provenance. It is from Japan originally. It was developed in an area of Hokkaido called Sorachi, and in the late 1970s, kind of lemony hop, but the growers and brewers in Japan kind of gave up on it, and it sort of left the picture for a while. But it was revived in 2008 by a hop farm in Washington State, United States, and has since been produced in increasing quantities, and it's now used in a variety of beers. It has a very unusual characteristic. People find things like soap or coconut, all kinds of unusual sorts of aromas and flavors from this hop. One brewery in Japan has used it as a single hop, and you can find it in stores as 1984 Sorachi, and it's way too much, way too much. And so if it's used as a single hop or too much in a brew, it will kind of destroy it, I feel. In this case, well, it might be a little different. On RateBeer, this one has 1,819 ratings, 3.74 average out of 5, and 95 percentile for all beers, and 95 for its style, Farmhouse Saison, and those are both pretty good scores, or pretty good percentiles, 95 percentile for a Saison. There are a lot of good Saisons now, of course, as you know. On Untapped, 129,766 ratings, and an average score of 3.63, and so a little bit lower than the RateBeer score. I have had this before. I rated it 0.4 out of 5 quite a while ago, and I haven't had this in quite some time. So the Sorachi Ace, they use a Pilsner malt for this, and the hops are Sorachi Ace. The yeast is a Belgian strain. The Brooklyn, I believe it's Brooklyn's own Belgian strain of yeast. And it is re-fermented with champagne yeast. That's another interesting characteristic for this beer. The Sorachi is added after fermentation. So, okay, let's give it a go. Again, it's called Sorachi Ace from Brooklyn Brewery. It's a farmhouse saison at 7.2%. Okay, it is a kind of dull, sort of pastel yellow with a good solid finger, or maybe even two, of very fine bubbled head. Put it through the light, see what we get here. Okay. See some lazy carbonation floating up there. Okay. Right away, we'll get the soap, kind of a soapiness, varnish I get, lemon, something like cocoa butter, not really coconut, but cocoa butter maybe some vanilla. It does have quite a complex nose. Again, when it's used in too strong or too large amount, it's way too much. Okay. Flavor starts out quite sweet, and the hops add to this. They add to the sweetness a very unusual characteristic, kind of buttery, coconutty sort of addition to the sweet malt. Some citrus for sure in mid-palate, honey. In addition, there's something like dill, like dill seed, something like that in there. A lot of lemon for sure. It's unusual. It has an unusual character, an unusual sweetness for the style, the farmhouse saison style. And in general, I've noticed that saisons made in the U.S. tend to be a little sweeter than, say, European saisons. I guess that's the way people like them there. I'm not sure. I prefer a more dry finish in a saison. The saison is originally a worker's drink, a farmer's drink during the hot summer season. And you wouldn't really want something sweet at that point in time when you're working out in the fields. Anyway, very interesting. The Sorachi hops are not too strong here, but it is quite an interesting drink. So once again, this is called Brooklyn Sorachi Ace, a farmhouse saison at 7.2%. Give it a go if you've never had it. This has come back to Japan. We haven't seen it here for a while. Brooklyn, of course, has a tie-up with Kirin, and so they have access to Kirin's distribution network. So recently we've seen this and Defender and Brooklyn Lager in many places throughout Japan. So you can find this quite easily. Give it a go and see what you think. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd like to hear from you. Okay, that's it for today. We're going to move on to a series of Japanese beers, not craft beers, a series from a major Japanese brewer, and I hope you come along for that. Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.